Hello, guys. Uh, Jamie was asking here if I had a camera crew. I actually have a few people working with me here to change the cameras. Just kidding. No, everything is in one automatic. I'm working by myself here. I hope you guys are doing well today. It's a pleasure to be back here on Thursday nights, Six String Talk. My name is Paulo Oliveira, and I'm excited to be here tonight with a dear friend of mine, a dear guest here, guy that I really admire. I'll talk about him in a second. Uh, but so first, today, the beginning here, I just wanna talk a little bit about guitar. As you guys know, our show here is called Six String Talk. Um, and it's related to guitar, but today we're going to be expanding that because our guest is not a guitarist, but he's an excellent musician, and it's going to be great. It's going to be just a great hang and great to talk to him. Um, but before I bring him in, I just want to share a couple of things here about practice and about rhythm. And again, if you're watching here with us live, appreciate you being here. But also for the people who are watching, this will be recorded. So this is also this is gonna stay in my channel. So for students to consult and get some ideas from these guitar tips I'm gonna give, and also from my talk with Jamie. Uh, you know. A lot of students and even professionals, when they think about music and guitar, a lot of times there's this huge concern with notes, like playing the right notes, playing the right scales, playing um, the right scales, playing the right chords, and this is all great. I mean, there are tons of literature and books that are so important to teach us all that. And I'm all over that. Like, I spent my whole life trying to figure that out. But what I also noticed is that uh, it's so important to take care of other aspects of music. And I consider rhythm to be among one of the most important aspects. So it doesn't matter if you know all the scales, if you know all the chords, and you understand all the theory behind it. If the rhythm is not something that it's solid and it's accurate, so in the feel, obviously depending on the style, the approach on rhythm is a little bit different. So I really think it's important for the students to understand this the concept of rhythm and practice that. So rather than giving a ton of examples of exercises and things you can do, I'm gonna talk about what is probably the simplest thing you can do, but probably one of the most important things, which is develop your awareness and just really pay attention while you're playing. You can use metronome, you can play with looping pedal. There are different ways to approach it, but just like the awareness and paying attention and evaluating what you're playing, and that works for classical music if you're learning a new piece. That works for jazz, for rock. Doesn't matter the style. We're talking about precision and placement of notes. So I'm gonna give two examples here, very quickly, um, on two different styles. So one's gonna be like a straight eight kind of groove. So like a Brazilian, probably a Brazilian samba here. Kind of like the groove I just played on this first song, which by the way is called Estamos Aí. It's a Brazilian standard by Mauricio A. Horn, a great tune. So I'm gonna start there. And again, my goal today here is not to talk about details or give a ton of exercise, but just talk about awareness of your placement, of the placement of your notes and your rhythm. So let me grab my guitar here. One thing that I've been doing is I use a looping pedal and I record myself. So if you don't have a looping pedal, you can even just use your phone just to record yourself and listen back. And I mean, the power of listening back to what you play is it's really gonna help you in several aspects. Today I'm gonna be addressing the aspect of rhythm, but if you're a singer or if you play any other instrument, you can learn a lot about other aspects. And later here I'll be bringing Jamie, and we're gonna talk a little bit about that, how this idea of recording yourself can be helpful. You can be your own teacher. Most of the time, as a music student, you're gonna notice where certain problems are. Obviously, you always need a teacher to help and guide you on those things, but you'd be surprised how much you can actually learn just by listening to yourself. So I'm gonna give a very simple example here. I'm gonna record just a groove on one chord, and I'm gonna show you guys my process to practice and evaluate my own rhythm. The little loop, repeating one chord, and then I'm gonna play some lines. And sometimes you can just choose one simple rhythm and just repeat like eighth note, like quarter notes first. Simple. Then you can try some eighth notes. Keep it simple. I'm not worried about the notes. Just think about the rhythm and placing the notes correctly. Start mixing them, but it's important to be aware of what you're playing, what kind of figure you're playing. Most of the time we play and we are not really aware of what we're doing, so then you can mix everything up and create actual phrases. One note, really locking in with the groove. Another thing that I do with the looping pedal, and you can do that at home even with your phone and record yourself, I record my actual lines and then I listen back. So I'm gonna record and we can listen together. see if everything is accurate. Not quite. And then repeats again. So that's just an idea, and this is for like a samba groove. And if you're approaching like playing jazz, playing something that's more like swing based, your concept of eighth notes also is gonna change because of the swing. So just a quick example here on a swing thing. Also, like triplets, instead of in groups of 3, you can do groups of 4. So it would be a regular triplet would be, you could do groups of 4. Very common in modern jazz. Just getting used to these rhythms and really paying attention. Play very simple things, simple lines, listen back, see and check if your rhythm is accurate, if everything is really locked in. All right. If you guys have any questions about rhythm or any of these ideas, you are welcome to write on the chat there. And ask your question. And we are getting ready here to bring our guest here. So let me tell you a little bit about this guy, James. He's a great musician, a great vocal coach. He has served as a vocal coach for Luke Combs, Brian Kelley, Nicolle Galyon, and among many other names. He's been coaching voices for over 3 decades. Wow. He's not that old, guys. I think he started when he was 5. Has dedicated his life to studying, developing, implementing the most effective methods and techniques to bring profound improvements for artists. And I mean, I'm suspect to talk about this guy because he's my friend, and he's just an inspiration. We do a lot of projects together, both educational projects and also musical projects. So let me check here. Jamie, are you here with us? Jamie?
I'm always with you.
Oh man, good to see you, brother. How are you doing? Thanks for being here.
So I have some questions.
Okay, ask me. But although I'm interviewing you, but you can also ask me. Let's just change the beginning.
Okay, yeah, well, because this involves me as well. I have my singers scat to try to find pocket a lot. Mm-hmm. And I'm wondering if you ever have your vocalist vocalize along with their solos, or maybe try to vocalize in thirds along with their solos, stuff like that, or try any counterpoint with it.
That's a good question and a good way to start our conversation. Sometimes ask my students to sing along,
Mhm.
but mostly because of phrasing. Because what happens is guitarists, they start playing notes and they don't want to stop. They never stop. So I tell them, hey, if you play the saxophone or if you're a singer, you die because your brain needs oxygen. So so one of the reasons why I ask sometimes my students to sing while they play, so they stop playing after a while. And they are able, it's a very common among beginners, they're
Yeah.
starting to improvise, they just play and never stop. So that's one of the reasons.
This is absolutely brilliant. Okay, I had to bring up my mom again because I was just at her house, my parents' place this weekend. We're all there, my brother and grandson, all that. It was great. But my mom was showing us a new piece that she was playing on piano. She's a fabulous musician, and she's working on a big Schumann piece. And anyway, she goes in the kitchen, and I start playing the piece, and she yells, "Breathe!" while I was playing. And then she comes back in the room with her pot that she's drying, and she says, "Where are you going to breathe?" So I started playing the phrase again, and this is not singing. This is playing the piano that she's talking about. And my brother was standing right there. He's also a fabulous musician, and he said, "That's what I hate about so many church organists is that they never take a breath." So that is really interesting that you would say
Hmm.
that. I didn't know that guitarists thought that way at all.
Yes, yeah, that happens a lot, especially when they're just starting like play jazz, like phrasing is everything. And it's very easy to overplay. Just improvisation in general, you want your ideas to be somehow organized, and sometimes adding rests is the best way. Actually, I even like to say, like, your solo should be rests and occasional notes.
Yes, right
uh,
on, right on.
because students are always going to overplay. I think that's kind of like a normal thing. And singing and play together also helps, just because you don't want your fingers to dictate what you play. You want the sound to be here. And that's another challenge.
Mhm.
So I do that myself sometimes, although I'm not a great singer by any means. But it helps me at least knowing, okay, here I'm singing the flat 7, here I'm singing the sharp 11. Like I know, trying to understand what's going on, and then you know how that note actually sounds against the chord. So that would be one of the goals.
All right, what are your questions for me, sir?
Okay. So well, let's start here just for these people to learn a little bit more about you. um, we have a few friends here. Anthony Belfilio, good to have you. Robbie, my sister Aline is here with us too, and Brandon was my student in Colorado. Thanks for being with us. Let's see what he's saying here. My high school jazz teacher had us all to do a scat transcription once, and we had to sing it to the class along with the recording. Transcribe a scat solo instead of guitar helped me with some phrasing,
Yes, absolutely.
because again the singers need to breathe. And I'm sure at some point their phrasing, and again the phrasing from a vocal point of view, it's different, right? I mean, and throughout the history of music, we can see more like instrumental like melodies and vocal like melodies. How would you, Jamie, describe? That can be kind of an open-ended question. Would describe a more instrumental like melody and a vocal like melody?
Sure. I think it depends on the context, of course, and depends on the style. Um, I know a lot of people who are unfamiliar with opera, and maybe some people like me who are very much a fan, we get frustrated when we're listening um, to Streetcar Named Desire, and we're like, "What language is this?" And it's in English, but you still can't understand anything the singer's saying. It's because they're using only the vowels, but they're not really phrasing it. So I think that these days they are doing a much better job of that. But I would say an instrumental, the the biggest difference for me would be you're wanting your instrument to speak. And when I'm playing a piano solo, I'm wanting the instrument to say something. But there's no lyrics. If I have lyrics, the lyrics have to dictate a lot of where the phrasing goes. And that has changed over the years. I remember very well when Whitney Houston, yes, I've been doing this 30 years because I remember very well when Whitney Houston first came out with her first big hit, Saving All My Love for You. And there were places in her songs where she would breathe in the middle of words, like fighting, fighting, instead of fighting. And vocal teachers all over the world just clutched their pearls and says, you never sing in the middle of a word. Well, yeah, you do. You do, because it draws attention to the emotion. So the important thing is not to sing the word. Listen. Sing what the word means. So she was trying to get what fighting feels like. Fighting. So putting that breath in there and the emphasis on the aggression of it feels like the word. So the biggest difference for me is you are enslaved to the lyric. You've got to sing the lyric and give the listener an experience through your phrasing. And the phrasing should have platforms where you sing and you land and you sing and you land. Otherwise, you've got this beautiful phrase, but people zone out, right? You've got to have something to where the silence happens and then that jerks the listener back to you. So very often the emotion is heard in the silence, not in the note.
Mm-hmm. Yes. I always, I think the power of silence is underestimated. You know, it's such a powerful emotional device, you know. And if you see that everywhere, you see that in like early orchestral music where you have, you know, like a whole orchestra playing, you have a grand pause. That pause is probably the most important note in the whole piece. You know, a lot of a piece for classical guitar, or I mean, you find that everywhere. You know, rest is just as important as sound. And manipulating the rests, it's a skill that we need to develop.
It is, and I think it's also a skill to know when to bring drama by pianissimo rather than by loud, because very often a whisper brings more of an impact than a yell. And of course it depends on the context, but it's a really cool device when you learn how to use it. And there's a lot of good singers we can talk about. Dolly Parton is the best. Listen to her sing Little Sparrow, where she'll belt to high heaven. Little sparrow, little sparrow. And your stomach just hits the floor. It's just so profound when she does that.
Great. Well, so let's talk a little bit here about what you do so those people can learn a little more about you, and then maybe the questions will come. So you're a vocal coach here, been working here in Nashville for about 30 years, and have worked with a lot of different singers. You're also a pianist. You spend all that time. You know everything about their practice routines, so that's something that I definitely want to talk about. And you also, you know, you teach a class at Belmont about career development too, and so that's another topic that we should touch. We have here some of the people who are watching. I believe most of them are somehow connected with music or music industry. So those would be interesting topics. So guys, start thinking, because we want questions from you. Or ideas, so we can I have a few things here that are already prepared, but I would like, if you guys want to, you know, help us and send questions. You can ask me, you can ask Jamie, we can both answer together. It's just a hang, you know, that's why we do this. We are, during this time of quarantine, we are all lonely at our houses, locked up, and it's just, I mean, it's a great opportunity to just hang, you know. So write as much as you want on that chat, and ask us questions. So tell us a little bit about, so you did this class at Belmont about career development, right? So tell us a little bit about this class. What are the aspects of career that you approach in that class?
Sure. Of course, there is a big emphasis on the social media aspect, which we are enslaved to at this point. And they say that it's a great time to be an artist because anybody can do it. But at the same time, it's kind of a crappy time to be an artist because everybody's doing it. So in order to make a space for yourself, there's no correct way, but there's a lot of wrong ways. So what we try to do is we come up with a list for each individual student artist. And I tell everybody this: attached to every artist is this invisible list. This list is, there's two lists. The first one is about 5 miles long, and it's all of the things that you cannot control. As a singer, you cannot make Diane Warren give you a hit song. You cannot make an investor give you 250 grand, which is really what you need to get this thing going, to get the music you need, to get it recorded. Not have to, but I mean, if you learn to use a DAW on your own, there's so many things that are out of your control. That was long, but there's this other list that's much shorter, and it's the things that you have in your control. So those things that are in your control are, you can be practicing. You can be learning new skills. You can be getting better at Pro Tools and Logic and becoming a better songwriter. You can be working on your image. You can control what you're putting in your mouth, which is something we all struggle with during this time of pandemic, and I'm addicted to fish tacos every night. So this list of things that you have control over, if you will get your mind in gear and focus only on those, don't worry about this long list of things that you cannot control. Look at this. If on this list I can't control, I'm practicing as much as I can, I'm improving my skills, I'm becoming multi-skilled, I can do many different things, I can play instruments, I can take my own photos, I can work Photoshop, I can market myself, I know how to work a search engine, I know how to optimize my search engine, I know how to work Facebook and YouTube ads. If you focus on those, you will start to see how fast this long list, one item at a time, will start to slide over to the things that are in your control. Because once you have the right songs, you become a good songwriter, then the better songwriters are going to want to write with you. You have proven that you're a multi-instrumentalist, then that you're an actual musician. You're not just a singer, because there's plenty of singers. We don't need any more singers. We need artists that have something to say. So people are going to want to play with you. And at Belmont, we had that problem a lot for some of the artists that may be pretty good, but they don't make any noise for themselves. And I have a student say, I can't get anybody to play bass for me. Who have you asked? I've asked this person, I've asked this person, I've asked this person. Well, have you asked David Lloyd? Oh no, I can't ask him. He would never say yes to me because he's too good. Well, then you better be that good because you need the best playing for you. Mm-hmm. So that is what we do in this class, and we put it into a format. That format ends up being your EPK. So an EPK is like your website, but it's a little bit different. A website is geared toward your fans mainly. So websites can have lots of scrolling, lots of buttons to push that fans love to do. An EPK needs to be basically a big fancy business card. So I want to be able to pop open that EPK and have very nicely across the top, here's my bio, long form, short form, both of them. Here are my images, high res, low res. And don't put every cute pic of yourself up there because you have to control your image. Only put the pics that you want to be up there from this photo shoot. Like, don't only pick a couple of different poses. You want your write-ups, and then I need to see your media. So you have all those tabs up there. So somebody who wants to book you for shows or who might be a potential investor can have everything right in front of their face and doesn't have to go searching for anything. If they have to scroll and scroll and scroll and look and try to find things, then you're failing at EPK. So anyway, that's the main difference. A website can be an EPK only if it is basically one page with the things across the tabs across the top, very simply outlined. So that's the final product of the class, is what you come out of there with is something you can really use. So I require them to contract a professional photographer, not just somebody with a good camera, but you're graded on the quality of your photo. Let's talk about what makes a good photo. I want to be able to look at your photo and hear your music. Does that make sense? Yes, I know it makes sense. So you have to push.
It's crazy how this applies. I mean, this applies to like any musician in any genre. You know, if you're a classical musician, or if you're a jazz player, or if you're a guitarist. I mean, that's so true. Like the quality, because that's how people sometimes people see that way before they listen to the music.
Heavens, yes. And the image, you have got to get it right too. So if you look up one of my favorite classical groups is the On Trio. It's these three beautiful Asian sisters, and it's violin, piano, and cello. And they mix up the instruments a little bit in there as well. But when you look at their promo shoots, they like white, and they like clean lines, classy, elegant, and beauty. So they play up on, hey, we're pretty, but it's not. It's always classy. When you look up who is your favorite classical pianist these days? I'm drawing a blank on all of them. But let's go to the Muscadine Bloodline. So that is one of my groups. They're a country group. So they are country, not so pop country. And they're getting a lot of footage right now. So when you see any of their photos or any of their Instagram, it's them fishing. It's them out in the woods with their shirts off hunting. It's a strong image, and it's really them. You know what I'm saying? It's authentic. They didn't have to create it because it's really who they are. So Kenny Rogers said this: the closer you can get your brand to your image, basically who you are, the closer you can get your brand to your actual self, the longer your career will be. Here's the difference between a brand and an image, for those of you who don't know. Your brand, my brand is who I say I am. My image is who you say I am. I want to get those close as possible. It's never going to be exactly the same. And the best example I can give you of that is, have you ever heard somebody imitate your voice and you say, I don't talk like that, and everybody in the room goes, yeah, you do? Well, that's your image. So that's why it's important to get that photo right, to get your image right. The wording in your biography, if you want it to be fun and uplifting, then make sure the wordage isn't stiffy and stodgy and too academic sounding. If you want to be come across as elegant, then I would write in third person rather than first person. Somebody should ask. Oh, no, we have questions.
Yeah. So we got two good questions here from Robbie.
Please read them to me.
So yes. So he's going back a little bit. You're talking about breathing. Can you hear me all right? Can you hear me well? Okay. So Robbie is a good friend of mine, great guitarist from Singapore. Thanks for being with us. Jamie, you mentioned the Whitney Houston example of breathing. You mentioned her example. How do you decide where to take a breath? And are there other cues apart from the text?
Right. Yes, there is. That's a great question. Now, there is this old pedagogical method of you breathe where there's a comma. Forget that. Sometimes that will be true, but very often that is not what's true at all. So how do you decide where you take a breath? Well, what are you wanting to say? What kind of mood are you trying to set up? So if I'm trying to plow through How Great Thou Art, if you know that song, that's a great teaching song, and it has a beautiful meaning and beautiful words. I love using this song because the words are very colorful. But if I were to go, oh Lord, my God, when I in awesome wonder there's so many different ways where I could breathe that would set separate words apart. When I in awesome wonder consider all, I held the line through a period. Consider all, breath, all of the worlds thy hands have made, and I see the stars. So I'm doing it in unpredictable places on purpose to make the listener go, oh, oh, oh. It keeps the listener on their toes. So my job as an entertainer with a message, I have to hold you. And if you're playing a guitar, you got to do the same thing I'm doing. I'm holding everyone in the audience by the chin, lightly, with love, saying, no, 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 we're not there yet. Stay with me. Stay, stay, stay. And I have to do that for 3.5 minutes or however long the piece is.
And it's, it's great because that's actually the other question that Robbie asked. He asked, "What about you, Paulo? Where should guitarists take breaths?" And I mean, it's exactly the same thing. You have to keep the audience interested, and that's crazy because that applies to music that's like classical music that was previously written. That also applies for improvisation. Mm-hmm. At the end of the day, this is an aspect of music, right? So finding that balance of like, okay, you keep the listener here. Okay, now he needs a break. He needs to digest what you said, and then you keep going. So I guess, I mean, we study like analysis and understanding of like phrasing and all that, and I think that's all very important. But there is just the actual, it's almost, there's a little bit of instinct. I think it's a combination, right? I mean, there's a lot of study, there's understanding of the style and listening. Some certain styles, they have very long phrases. Certain styles, they are very short. We can go to like really extreme examples of like singers that sing those really long lines that never end, or instrumental compositions that have these really long lines. Then you have bebop players that play like really short fragments that are really angular. So it's great to just put, it's all music, and just look at everything and try to really, really understand. I used to have a teacher who used to say that, and I love it. Like, you have to meet the music on its own terms. That's even great. If the phrasing looks weird, like a Charlie Parker kind of phrasing that's like all angular and short and weird, or like an Albenberg string quartet. Because a lot of people talk about, like how the music is so dissonant, but it's not only that. The phrasing is also very unusual and angular and very instrumental in a way. It's not really a singable kind of line. It's just just talk about, like, for example, like a string quartet from Albenberg. But we can, there is a lot of music in the 20th century where you can see those things. So it's just interesting, that aspect of music, phrasing, long versus short, articulation, and all that. So
and I would really encourage people to experiment with it and not even get in your head that, well, in classical music, they use longer phrases, and in like country music, it's shorter. That's not true at all. It depends on the piece. If you're singing Rachmaninoff's Vocalise that has no words, it's just up to the singer's vowel choice, ah or or ooh, then the phrases are excruciatingly long, very, very long. But also, if you're singing some John Michael Montgomery, hey, put a little, let me give me a sign, I'd give anything to make you mine on mine, I'd do you bidding and be its beck and call. Very long phrases, and that song is notoriously hard to sing. Garth Brooks, again, Ain't Going Down Till the Sun Comes Up. The bridge in that thing is notoriously difficult to sing because it is so long and he never breathes, not even live. And then he has a big hey at the end of the big long phrase. So it's meeting it at its own terms.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, cool. And tell me here a question here. So you play piano, you play, you studied a lot of the literature of classical piano. Tell me a little bit how your piano playing informs your vocal, your knowledge as a vocal coach and a singer, and the other way around. How one informed the other?
Sure. Let's talk about let's talk about, okay, let's go back to Rachmaninoff again. Let's talk about the prelude in the G minor. Well, my keyboard's on. Ooh, I gotta mute this video. So if we're doing the, so every pianist knows that piece. It has a B section that has 3 very distinct voices in it. And you've got to bring them out as an artist. You've got to bring them out. And sometimes you just have to make choices. Which voice do I want the listener to hear? So that's why it's so good to listen to different artists play this one particular piece, because suddenly you'll hear a voice. I didn't even know that was there, but there it is in the music. So with vocals, you've got to realize that seldom are you singing a cappella. You are usually singing with some accompaniment, most often. Where does your voice fit in the band? Even if you're the front man or the front woman, you still have to be a part of the band, and your phrasing still has to lock down hard with your drums and your bass. Or if you're doing a classical work, che fiero costume, if you're doing that piece, young people sing it, but it's not because it's easy. It's a good teaching piece. But that accompaniment is very difficult. The vocal line is very difficult. If both of you sing it and play it well separately, that doesn't make it a good performance. It is the vocals and the pianos have got to be da 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 da. There's a lot of breathing that a good accompanist has to have telepathy with the singer, and the singer has got to be able to give the signal, right? So anybody who plays in a band should know that we have this telepathy going on. So as a professional pianist and a professional singer, I do have that advantage from seeing it from both angles. Yeah, I'll breathe with you, but you got to give me some kind of signal. It's just with the body or something. And that also lets the audience enjoy it more too, because if they see the breath, they feel it with you as well.
Yes. Yeah, I've done a lot of chamber music, guitar duos, trios, quartets, also like guitar and violin, and I played a lot with wind instruments. So I have a duo with Alex Graham here, saxophonist, and I played a lot of flute, and I learned so much about the thing that you mentioned about just the whole breathing. I mean, we ended up going back to the breathing again, but maybe today is the day to talk about breathing and phrasing. But I think that's a great topic, because that's playing with those instruments, I had to learn how to breathe with them and make it organic, because as a guitarist it would be easy for me to do this boom and then start playing, but he needed time to breathe more, especially flute, because flute, most of the air is lost, right? Yep. So playing flute or play clarinet, oboe, I have a recording with an oboe player, and it's the same thing, and I learned most of the time, depending on the phrases, I had to let them breathe.
Oh, sure.
Because if I gave the cue breathing, maybe it wouldn't be enough time for them to actually get the air they needed. And playing with singers, the same thing, that's why certain cues need to come from the player or the singer who actually, they're the only ones that are gonna know how much air they need.
Right.
So yeah. Let's see here what else. Yeah, that's so useful to remember if the audience sees you breathing. Yeah. If the audience sees you breathing, they do too. Yeah.
Yes.
And I mean, for Robbie and everybody else who's watching, I think the whole breathing thing is something that we have to incorporate to our practice, because sometimes when you practice, you forget. And I mean, sometimes we underestimate the power of breathing for our own lives, just right,
yes,
like a minute a day, just stop everything you're doing and just sit down.
Does your watch remind you to breathe? Mine does.
Oh, really?
Yeah, there's an app called Breathe on my Apple Watch that would say, just a minute of breathing could change your day. It literally says that. So it reminds me to stop and just take 1 minute.
Sometimes I put an alarm. I not right now, but I used to do that. I put an alarm like 3 in the afternoon when I know that like I'm kind of like on the run, and sometimes you just have to slow it down, you know, and like and breathe. Like the power of breathing, it's unbelievable. And I mean, there is all, you know, the meditation and yoga and even working out, all those great activities. Breathing is like such an important element of all those activities. So and just for our own health in general, and you might be able to increase your quality of life if your quality of your breathing is better.
Yeah, I'm a living testament to that because I have the worst sleep apnea that Vanderbilt Voice Center has ever seen. So they're thinking that probably contributed to why I had a stroke because I don't breathe. And when I had the test, they said I would stop breathing for sometimes over a minute. Wow. And yeah, and my son always says I sound like a baby dragon. So I make horrible noises. So now I have this $3,500 machine that makes me breathe better, and it does improve my life.
Okay.
And everyone around me.
Wow. Yes. Let's see what else we have here. Sam Burns. The breathe brings you home.
Yep.
Sam is a great guitarist too. He's a graduate student at Belmont. Thank you for being with us. Sam is also a singer. So Sam, if you have questions here, Jamie's an expert here. Make sure you use his expertise and send some questions here for us. Guys, if you have more questions, please send. We still have about it's already 9. We wanted to keep this to about an hour, but maybe we're gonna go a little bit longer here, maybe 10 more minutes to maybe get a few more questions. You have a brand new website, is that correct, Jamie? Can we talk a little bit about that? The link is right below here. You can see he has some really, and I've been, you know, as he's developing this website, I've been looking and it looks great. So actually, you know, if you want to steal some ideas, that's a very good website right here. And plus, if you're a singer and you want to obviously get instruction from Jamie, that's where he can get his contact. Can you tell us a little bit about this process of building like a pretty cool website?
Yeah, I can. And here's another example of where, you know, when this thing hit, like all of our incomes were cut down to like a quarter. So I just couldn't justify. I needed a new site really badly. And I guess it was maybe 10 years ago when I had the first one really built. And it was so expensive. Like 10 years ago, it was so expensive. And I got some bids on a couple of different work sites. I went to Fiverr.com, which I highly recommend. Fiverr, that's with 2 R's.com. And I also went to Upwork.com, which I also highly recommend. And I just got some bids on what it would cost to build a website that was comparable to the WordPress that I had. And you know how much they $5,000. And I know people deserve to get paid what they're worth, absolutely, but it was like I can't spend $5,000 not knowing when we're going back to work. I mean, we don't need to do that. So I just got on all of the different platforms. I created 3 different websites. I use WordPress, which I'm already familiar with. I use Squarespace, and what is the other one that's popular?
Wix.
I use Wix. And I built a basic website on all 3 of those just so that I would be able to speak on it in my class because my students get to pick which platform. And I ended up going with Squarespace with much hesitancy because I know that literally this is the interweb. How much is WordPress? This is everything else. So like 80 to 90% of all major websites are WordPress because they are very, very flexible and vast. But you know what that also means? complicated, and the coding is much more complicated. There are some ways around it now. They have little apps that will build your WordPress for you, but I just had to make a decision. I went with Squarespace. What I did was I messed around with a lot of colors. I researched what colors are selling colors, and I didn't like any of them. You know what it is? It's yellow and red. Those are the mustard and ketchup. Those are the biggest selling colors. They all look like used car salesman things to me. And I looked at a lot of other vocal coach websites, which I don't enjoy doing at all. Some of my friends, and there's some nice ones, but especially the biggest companies, like the guys in LA, they all came across as used car salesmen to me, and they are so ready to spam your inbox with constant deals and tips of the day and whatnot to stay in contact. And I know I got to play part of that game as well, but I'm refusing right now. So what I went with was Rolls Royce. So I wanted it to have more of a luxury feel to it. So I chose my personal favorite color, which is a gray, blue, green as my main color, and then black. So those two things. And I built that thing. I did pay a photographer. He was great. He was very expensive. I think I paid about $2,500, and I want to tell you that just so you know what you're getting into. But $2,500 really is not. It's expensive these days. The reason it's expensive is because everyone has an iPhone, and everyone has a ripped off version of Photoshop, and they do their own pics, and they can usually do a really good job. But what they don't do is they don't have the artist's eye that these professionals do. So this guy made me look better than I could myself, even though I can take some really good pics. Look at any of the Phoenix posters, and I'm a really good hack. So anyway, I built the site, and here's what I did. Then I hired a professional to come in, and I paid him $500 to add some code that would line things up, that would fully justify. Turns out you can't fully justify everything, because when you go to different formats, it messes everything up. So that's why I'm always big on having even lines on each side. You can't fully justify on everything, because it'll end up putting lines on the wrong line when you are on a phone. Another big thing I learned was forget what it looks like on your desktop, because everyone is going to look at it on their phone at least first. So design for your phone first. Then you can worry about how pretty it is on everything else. But if it looks janky and people are having to swipe and swipe and swipe on your phone, then fail. So it was worth paying this guy $500 to get the code right, that he knew more code than I could find online. And he knew some search engine optimization things, such as I have a lot of really pretty artwork. Oh, all the artwork on there that you'll see, I created myself. All of the graphics, all of those really cool looking metal plates that have my rates and all the services I provide, I learned how to do all of that stuff myself. Because if I had paid somebody to do that, get this, and it's a commerce site, meaning people can pay me through this site. $10,000 is how much a Nashville company wanted Belmont graduate that is involved in music, but he does this because he makes better money, but simply to put a shopping cart on it. You know how much it costs? It costs $40 to do it on Squarespace. It would take it from $5,000 to $10,000 because I'm making money off of their work. So learn how to do it your own damn self. That is the lesson. And then pay somebody on Upwork to spruce up what you can't do yourself.
Yeah, that's great. That's great advice. So, guys, you guys can see the links down below. Go check it out.
Yeah, check it out, please.
Yeah, it's a really cool site. We have here a question. Brendan, how do you coach a rock vocalist who wants to get some grit in their voice without hurting it?
Sure. Okay, this is a process, and it can be done, but not always. There are some singers. Now, listen, I'm a tenor, and I am a lyric tenor. That means I am almost the lightest. Leggero is the lightest Fach. I am almost the light. Light doesn't mean weak. It means I'm more piercing, and I don't have this, you hear my speaking voice, I don't have, this big boomy sound in my voice. Lighter voices are not going to be able to produce the rock scream as well, but we can get it to happen. But you need to do it slowly and build up an endurance. So we're going to engage the vestibular folds, just like that, and then we're going to add vocal fry like this. Just the same way that I teach whistle tone. And then you can put some pressure on, I'm going to back up. And it really feels good. And when you put that on microphone, it sounds so cool. So if you listen, AC/DC's lead singer, what's his name? You might know, anyway, him. If you'll listen to him sing Highway to Hell off mic, it's like, Highway to... It's not loud at all. He lets the mic do the work, and he puts a lot of, it's called curving, because we're actually letting the vestibular folds kind of fold down, and it creates a really cool effect. So you can go crystal clear and then put some edge on it if you want. But what I'm saying about being careful, the safely thing, it's a double-edged sword, because to get that sound, you are abusing. By definition, you are abusing. So you've got to go slowly with this and build up some endurance and check out how much your own voice can handle. So I would start with the curving exercises that would give you, I'm just trying to get some distortion, and then clean it up. And then it feels really good. Like even after I do that, my speaking voice, feels super clear. So I've not trashed myself at all. So you can do it cleanly, but don't just start yelling, because you will blow a gasket. And by that, I mean micro hemorrhaging. You will actually get hemorrhages in your vocal cords. One more quick thing. Your vocal cords, shaped like two bananas side by side, they have a sac around them called the epithelium, and it's only 5 cells thick. So it's about the consistency of wet tissue paper. Surprisingly, it's pretty durable, and it heals quickly, but you can damage that thing so easily by abuse. Even if your technique is great, you can damage it. Now, damaging it once, twice, 3 times, not bad. But if you do it night after night after night, what happens? A callus, right? So just like when you're lifting weights and you get these calluses right here, you will get that on your vocal cords. They usually come in pairs, a lovely matching set. And then you have nodules, and then you might need surgery. So that's why I say to anybody wanting to have that sound, go slow and get some technique.
Great. That was a great question and a great answer. That was very good. We are walking here, to our last part of tonight. It's been so cool. So if you guys have more questions, that's your last chance here to ask about vocal coaching, about career, about guitar, about anything related to that. We do have a question here from Sam Burns. Do you have any thoughts? Any thoughts on speech level singing this course by Seth Riggs? Any favorite speech level exercises?
Sure. Seth is my main vocal teacher. I studied with Seth for many years. I lived in his house in LA. So he's been very good to me over the years. So speech level singing is great. Basically, and this is Seth's own words, it's bel canto. So if you've ever heard of bel canto technique, that's what it is. But it's his application of it that made it really, really special. So what I take from Seth that is revolutionary is that he encourages singers to not lift the soft palate, not even in classical singing. And I don't teach to lift the soft palate either. We create space a different way. We lower the larynx and we create space within the mouth. So if you raise the soft palate, then you're cutting off. Do you hear that sound? It's terrible. I'm cutting off my resonators. So you just let the soft palate hang and practice that on the letters NG, like you're going, So I can go from a very low note to a very high note without getting louder and without getting tired. That's speech level singing, and it's good, really, really good.
Cool. That's really cool. Um, just very briefly, for those of us who don't know who Seth Riggs is, can you give a quick? So he was your vocal coach.
Sure, yeah, and of course I've had a lot of vocal coaches that
Mm.
are absolutely wonderful. I would say that him and Richard Miller are the two. We lost Richard, I guess, 7 years ago now. He's one of the greatest pedagogues of our time, and him and Seth were frenemies. They loved each other, but they had big disagreements. Seth Riggs is, I'm going to go ahead and say, the most important vocal pedagogue of the commercial world in particular. You would be hard pressed to name someone that has not studied with Seth extensively. Listen, Barbara Streisand, Stevie Wonder, Mariah, of course. Help me out. Hills Are Alive with the Sound of Music. What's her name? One of my favorite singers of all time. The star of Julie Andrews. Julie Andrews worked with Seth. So he is Donna Summer. He was on tour with Michael Jackson for several tours. And Michael, again, lived in his house for a while he was studying with him. So they were very, very close. So he's a very important pedagogue, and he was a great singer in his time as well, and has produced some of the greatest voices of our time.
Mm-hmm.
So he's worth looking into. He's $500 an hour. That makes me sound really cheap, doesn't it? But I say if you get a chance, he's not gonna be doing this much longer. As of last month, he is still because of COVID. I don't know what he's gonna do because he's well into his 80s now. But if you ever get a chance to have a lesson, lay down the $500. It's neat to be in the presence of Yoda, and we all of us in Nashville, the vocal coaches that have done speech level singing, and we're part of that community. We all call him Yoda. He can be fiery and he can be hateful, but he's wonderful.
Cool. That's the piece of advice right there. If you have those $500, or you can maybe contact Jamie, and I guarantee you that it'll be a little bit cheaper, way cheaper.
A little cheaper. Yeah. A little cheaper.
Oh man. Well, man, thanks again for taking the time, to hang out with us here tonight. I mean, it was cool. We got some very interesting questions, and some guys here that are guitarists and also singers that I think could benefit from this conversation. And I guess just to wrap up, one of the reasons why I'm doing this every Thursday and bringing like great guys like Jamie is, one, just to connect with my friends, and there is a little bit of a selfish thing there because I use this time for me to just hang out, with like guys that I believe are incredible, are very great on what they do. And it's a chance, for me to, keep myself sane during this this pandemic, and also to connect with you guys that are watching. So, I mean, I really appreciate you guys tuning in and sending questions and talking. I mean, that's I think that is a very special thing. We have people, from all over, from Brazil, our friends here from Belmont, Sam and Anthony, Brandon from Colorado, Robbie all the way from Singapore, man. He's like early in the morning. He's having his breakfast and watching us. My dad was here. Meu pai, abraço. Everyone was here, so it's great. My sister was here too, so the family also always supporting, so that's awesome. Again, Jamie, do you have any final thoughts or any final piece of advice? Or
yes, during this curse, we've also been given the gift of time. Let's keep reminding each other to not waste it, and not just spend it on practicing, but let's practice it. Let's spend time practicing how to be really good people as well, and the music will follow.
That's great. And I mentioned that last week. I mean, what I said is just great, but I think we have extra reasons now to treat other people better. I mean, we have, you don't know where they're coming from.
Yep.
You don't know what they've been through. You never know, and it's very easy to forget that. It's very, sometimes, you are at the supermarket or at the gas station, wherever you are, you're in a hurry, or maybe you're not having a great day. But again, you never know how things are for the other people, and you have extra reasons now to be kind and be helpful, and not, because again, we don't know what the other person is being through. So I guess if there's anything that I want to share today, it's that, just be kind to everybody, and also wear a mask. Wear a mask, when you're
Being
in
kind.
public. It's not a political statement. It doesn't mean that you are blue or red. It doesn't mean it. No, it's just science. If you wear a mask, less people will die. That's what happens.
And Dolly Parton said to wear it, so I'm wearing it.
Okay. So you got convinced. So yeah, I'm gonna buy a few more now, and I wanna, you know, yeah, I
I'm
wanna
going to buy the shield as well.
shoot, yeah, especially for you, yeah, work with singers.
Yeah.
Um, so we are taking all the precautions we can because we want this to end as soon as possible, so we can all hug each other and kiss each other and have fun and play music, and so that's the goal. So wear your mask, social distance, but still keep in touch with people, like even if it's through your phone. I hate looking at my phone all the time. I've been looking at my phone a lot, but again, it's a way to keep connected. So for now, that's what we can do. So keep connected, and talk to your friends, your family. It's very important. All right, Jamie, thanks again. And I'll see you guys next Thursday on Six String Talk. And I'll have a new guest that's, I'll let you guys later in the week know who this guy is. So have a good night, and I'll see you next week. Thank you,
Right.
Jamie.
Good night, y'all.
Bye.
Big love.